Hello. So, in this session of cloud computing, today we will have the introduction to the private cloud model. So, we have been studying here about the various cloud deployment models. So, we have started about the public cloud model. So, today we have here the private cloud model. So, first of all, we will see here that what is a private cloud model and what are the benefits of deploying a private cloud model, or what are the requirements for the various organizations so that they should deploy a private cloud model here. So first of all, this private cloud model is deployed, or it is operated here for a single organization. This is operated for a single organization. That means, unlike your public cloud model, here the resources will be shared among only that particular organizations, which is deploying here the private cloud model. That means it is deployed here only for a particular single organization here. So that means this private cloud model here allows the systems and services to be accessible only within this organization. Private cloud model here allows the systems and services to be accessible only within that organization. That means whatever the resources, what are the services are there, they are only here accessible to this organizations. As in public cloud, we have all the resources which are shared here among a different number of tenants here. But here, the various services and resources are only shared for that particular organization. So that is what it makes a private cloud, because the system services, or we can say that every single resource here is available for only a particular organization here. So, but this private cloud here can be managed internally, or it can be here managed by a third party. So that means in your private cloud model, only the specific or specified client can operate. One of the features here is that the specified client can operate for your private cloud or in your private cloud model. So like other models, what will happen in your private cloud model, it will provide the computing power as a service, because what we have in our cloud computing, that various resources or services are provided here that can be managed or customized by the various users. So that means here in the private cloud model, it will provide computing power as a service within a virtualized environment using under the underlying pool of various computing resources. That means whether it is a hardware resource or it's a platform to build certain applications, it will be providing here. But in the case of private cloud, only for that organization. So we can define this private cloud in contrast to your public cloud. So if we have here like public cloud and the private cloud here. So what happens in your public cloud is that it has multiple clients which is accessing the virtualized services. Here we have multiple clients accessing the virtualized services. So this is a thing which will make your differentiation between your public and your private cloud, because what have it has multiple clients here. But now these multiple clients are sharing these resources, or we can say that accessing the various virtualized services. Now these resources are here drawn, or these resources here are drawn from the same pool of server across the public network. So that means in your public cloud we have same pool of resources here. But what will happen in your private cloud? The private cloud services are only for the specified clients here, and it will draw their resources from a distinct pool of resources. So it will have a separate pool of resources. So simply we can say that the resources here are not public, only for that organization. So this is providing here the services for the public access, and the private cloud here is providing the services for a particular organization, because we have those resources. They can be managed internally or they can be managed by some third party, but they will be available only for the specified clients with a distinct pool of resources. That means separate pool of resources, where in case of public you will have a number of clients which are sharing the same virtualized servers across the various public network here. Now, for example, your private cloud, who can deploy, like we have a financial organization who have certain requirements so that the resources should remain here in this particular organization, so they can there deploy the private cloud model. So, a private cloud service can be utilized by a financial company that is requiring here regulations to store the data internally. They want the resources and the data to be internal to their organization. So what they can do, they can use a private cloud there, because all these resources will be available only to the specified clients for that particular organization here. So for a private cloud here, so in your private cloud model, you have your information and your application. So like it has the enterprise who is using the private cloud. So enterprises infrastructure and the storage services. The network storage services here. Then you can have the provider infrastructure who is providing the services to the enterprise, the provider infrastructure and the respective storage services here. After that, what you have the cloud inter-network. Cloud inter-network, and then you have here the enterprises IT resource. Then we have enterprises IT resource here. So for your private cloud model, what you're dealing with your piece of information that is not shared here among any other client. Then you have your applications. So for that you have that enterprise and the provider infrastructure who is providing the private cloud services to that particular organization. If it is the financial organization deploying a private cloud model, so it will deploy that model. It will have its own infrastructure, and the applications, the informations are within that particular cloud, within that particular organization. So that will be having a limited access here. That means an access to these clients here only. Now, so this is here your private cloud model. That means it is providing a limited access only for a particular organization. That's why it is a private, because it is here only for one single organization, not shared among the various clients here. Or we can say that the resources are not available for the public access. Now, after that, we have here certain benefits of deploying the private cloud model. Next, we have here the benefits of deploying the private cloud model. So the very first advantage here with your private cloud model is the higher security and privacy. Higher security and privacy. So as we know that the private cloud operation are not available to general public. So that means the as the resources are shared from a distinct pool of resources, so it has access which is restricted to connections. That means how it is providing higher security and higher privacy, because whatever the operation or what are the activities or what are the resources here are with the private cloud that are not available to the public use. So that means it has a distinct pool of resources which is not available to the public use here. So that means it has unrestricted access to the various connections. Restricted access to various connections, and it will have distinct leased line. So it all these factors here ensures the higher privacy and security for the private cloud, because it will not be accessible by any other third party, because it has limited access, or we can say simply access to only the specific client. So it has a secure platform and it's providing here privacy in terms of these parameters. So security and privacy here is guaranteed in private cloud and more percentage as compared to your public cloud, because in public cloud we know that it is shared among the various resources across various public networks here. So that is a less secure model as compared to your private cloud model. Next one is more control. More control. So as a private cloud is only accessible by a single organization, so it will have the ability to configure and manage its inlines according to their needs. So more control means that this is deployed here for one particular organization. So it is accessible by only that organization. So it will have, this organization will have the ability, or they have certain resources, they have access to configure the cloud and manage the various things according to their requirements. So that's how we can say that in private cloud you have more control over the things here. Third thing, or the third advantage here, which is associated with your private cloud model, is cost and energy efficiency. So, implementing a private cloud model can improve the allocation of resources within a particular organization by ensuring that the availability of resources to the individual functions of particular departments. Now we have said certain departments here, individual departments in the particular organization. So we know that the allocation of the resources for that particular department is more flexible as compared to other, because they are drawn there from a distinct pool of resources. So availability is more, or the allocation of these resources within organization assures that they can be timely allocated to that particular department or that particular function of in particular organizations. But if we talk here about the cost effective, so they're not as much as cost effective as public cloud services, because what happened in your private cloud, we have smaller economies and increased management cost, because we have increased management cost for a single private cloud here, and we have smaller economies as compared to the public cloud model, in which is very large. So it is energy efficient here, because you can say that in case of the allocation of the resources. But if we talk here about the cost, so it is not that much cost effective here. It will be a costly model here as compared to your private public cloud model here. So these are the advantages, that it is offering here higher security and privacy, more control over the resources and efficiency. After benefits, we have certain disadvantages also associated with it. Now, the very first disadvantage is that it has a restricted area. So that means the private cloud is only accessible locally for a particular organization. Next thing is inflexible pricing. Inflexible pricing. So in order to fulfill certain demands, so purchasing new hardware is very costly. So that means the system or this private cloud model here is not that much cost effective if you compare it with your public cloud model. So third disadvantage is the limited scalability. Now, this factor scalability was an advantage in your like public cloud model, but this is here a disadvantage in private cloud model, because the private cloud can be scaled only within the capacity of the internal hosted resources. That means it has a separate pool of resources. So the scaling up or scaling down only depends upon on that limited resources which are hosted within that organization. But that is not the case here with your public cloud. So it suffers from these of these disadvantages, that it is having a restricted area, that means only local accessibility here. Then inflexible pricing, that you have to purchase new hardware here if the demands are increasing. Then you have the limited scalability, because we have a limited hosted resources here within particular organization. So this was just an introduction to your private cloud model, that how it is different from your public cloud and what are the various benefits and disadvantages associated with your private cloud model here. So this is all here for today's session. Thank you so much.